And I'll tell you about this case we just settled last week. After 2 weeks of trial and bringing in 13 witnesses. It was a case involving a school teacher. School teacher had to go to a meeting at his assistant principal's office, and he had to, the room was a small room, there were a lot of teachers, and he had to sit in a chair, and that chair was in the line of where you open the door. And another teacher was coming into that meeting late, and the door had a tendency to stick. It was a wooden door and would swell whenever the weather would get hot. And you'd have to really push hard on it, or you'd have to really be strong to open that door. And this teacher who came along, she had to use a lot of energy to open that door. And when she opened that door, the door handle hit the teacher right in the head. Hit him so hard that his head was bleeding. And another lawyer brought us the case that was suing the city of New York. The city of New York didn't want to pay 1 penny. They said the man was in the way of where the door was open, shouldn't have been sitting in that chair, caused his own accident. They said the man had 4 major surgeries: laminectomy to his neck, fusion in his back, a shoulder surgery, a hip surgery, and he was a shop teacher, and he was always banging a finger or cutting something, and he had many workman's compensation claims, and they said he was a phony, that he invented the whole thing, that this massive headache syndrome that he had that prevented him from even being able to read a newspaper or watch a television was just a figment, just a way of collecting money from the city of New York. And frankly, the lawyer who had the case really didn't know what to do with it, how to prove his damages. But we've handled over the past number of years every type of case you could possibly imagine. And we sent this client down for a PET scan. And what it does is it shows the uptake of sugar in the brain. And if you do enough PET scans, you know what a standard PET scan looks like. And if there's a damage to the brain, organic damage, some actual physical damage done to the brain, it shows up on the PET scan like a bright searchlight. And we sent our client for this PET scan. He had this scan. The scan showed that he had organic brain damage, that his loss of IQ was real, his headache syndrome was real, his inability to function was real, his inability to drive his car was real, that his total life had changed, and that he was unable to continue as a school teacher. And when we got done with our 13 witnesses, in the beginning the city offered us nothing. As this case started to move along, they offered us $600,000. At one point they went to $1 million, and then they were frozen at $1.2 million. Take it or leave it. If you don't take it, we're going to take it off the table. And we just kept on moving steadily along like a train, witness after witness, and we could tell that the jury particularly liked this PET scan and the doctor who did it, and they particularly understood that this was not a figment of somebody's imagination. This was a human life whose brain was actually destroyed by that strong blow. And right before we were supposed to sum up, the city came up with $2.75 million, and the client was very, very satisfied. And we said, that's so much money that we don't recommend you risk it to try to get more. But that's the type of work we do. We understand the problems, we understand the solutions. We're the pros. You have an injury, we want you to go to a doctor, we want you to take care of yourself, but leave the legal work to us.